Welcome to Global Skills Day 2022, a series of inspiring sessions about a post-pandemic vision for the future of work and learning. I'm your host, Gary Andrew Bowles. I'm the author of The Next Rules of Work. I'm the chair for the future of work with Singularity University. And you can find me on LinkedIn, where I have 9 courses with over 1.1 million learners, courses like learning mindset, learning agility, and so on. Our session today is titled Where Learning Meets the Real World, Story Xperiential with Pixar. And my guests today have developed and participated in an amazing program to spark creativity in people around the world. So Elyse, Sally, Nova, Kieren, thank you all for joining me. I'd love it if you would each just briefly introduce yourself. And Elyse, it would be wonderful if you would start off.
Thank you, Gary. It's really fun to be here with this whole team. I'm Elyse Klaidman, and I spent 22 years working at Pixar Animation Studio, running our Pixar University, our internal education, and did a lot of work on our external education and educational outreach, ran our exhibitions and archives, and created something called Pixar in a Box while at Pixar. I left Pixar a few years ago and started X in a Box, which is our organization focused on educational equity and really bringing career awareness and project-based learning to learners everywhere, giving them the opportunity to kind of see the many ways that they might want to contribute in the world. And Story Xperiential with Pixar is one of our programs.
That's wonderful. So, Sally, do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Aloha, everyone. My name is Sally Nhomi. I am the high school internship coordinator at Kamehameha Schools at Kapalama campus on Oahu here in Honolulu. And I started working with our students, our juniors and seniors here at our campus to try to help each student find their individual gifts, things that they're good at, that they can contribute to our lahui, to our community, both present and in the future. And we connect students both virtually and in person. It's been an adjustment time with COVID, but opportunities for students to be able to express their gifts and their own ideas to contribute to real world opportunities. And so it was our pleasure to get to work with Story Xperiential in fall 2021 to get to be part of the first cohort.
Oh, that's awesome. So I'm looking forward to hearing about the program and how things went. So Nova, tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Nova Sonomura. I am one of the aforementioned seniors who participated in the first run of Story Xperiential. And yeah, we participated under the group name Dream Team. And afterwards, I went on to continue work with X in a Box as a student advisor. And so that's been a wonderful opportunity. And it's nice to continue to be involved in this work.
Oh, that's awesome. So, and last but certainly not least, Kieren, tell us about yourself.
Aloha, I'm Kieren, and I am the other of the 3 seniors that were a part of the first cohort for Story Xperiential. And I'm not as involved as Nova right now, but thank you for having me here still.
No, thanks for joining us. So Elyse, I would love to have you talk just a little bit more about your experience, and especially, and you and I, we met when you were still at Pixar, and you had already conceived of Pixar in a Box. And so maybe you could tell people a little bit about that arc, and then how it came to be X in a Box, and how you came to develop this program.
Absolutely. So while running Pixar University at Pixar, I would get phone calls almost every day, certainly every week, from educators across the globe, and really from every age, from preschool through postgraduate, asking how we could help support them in creating an animation curriculum, in learning about what are the jobs, how does it work, what's it like to work at Pixar, how do you get there? And so, we were all really anxious to support these requests, but it would have been a complete full-time job to do so. So I was talking to a number of my colleagues one day and said, I just want to put Pixar in a box and be able to send it out to every educator who asks us. And so then we started thinking, well, what does that mean? And my colleague, Tony DeRose, and I spent a lot of time thinking, who might we partner with? We ended up partnering with Khan Academy, and our goal was to create this learning series that would really open the doors to Pixar to everybody, and to allow them to meet people and hear what their career paths were, how they got there, the really interesting, diverse and different backgrounds they came from. And so that's what we did. We created this content that lives for free on Khan Academy that explores the math behind Pixar, the science behind Pixar, obviously the storytelling, the humanities, and to give both individuals, students, and educators materials that they could incorporate into their learning journey. And so while I did a lot of things at Pixar that I really loved, at this stage of my career and life, it just seemed like my goal was to provide access to help support educators and learners everywhere in having the opportunities that we need them to have, so that we as the world globally can succeed, right? And if we don't have all voices, all perspectives, but how can we have all those voices if we aren't providing the inroads and the opportunities? So that led to X in a Box. And during X in a Box was basically born at the same time the pandemic arrived, so March of 2020. And pretty early on, we started thinking, we're providing great materials, we're putting them out in the world. We've worked with amazing companies like Epic Games and Adobe. But what we're seeing is a time in our lives where online education is taking a front seat, and it needs to be really dynamic, and it needs to be interactive. And we're seeing educators who are already working harder than anybody, working in a time that the stress levels and the complexity had just gone through the roof. So we started thinking, let's create a program that's really turnkey, that's all in one, where educators can open it, work with it, and that's it. They don't have to do a whole lot of preparation. And it made sense to us naturally to start with storytelling, which is the root of our humanity. And obviously, then we would turn to Pixar, and we were thrilled when Pixar was excited to do Story Xperiential with Pixar with us.
That's wonderful. Now, at least do me a favor, just talk a little bit about the mechanics of it, like how classes get involved, and especially with the students, the process, because the good news with obviously more online access to learning, and certainly in the global pandemic, a lot more digital access. But the bad news is you can get a lot of people sort of sign up for things and get involved, but then actually helping to channel their energies through a program, getting them to all get some kind of feedback and continually improve, that proves very difficult at scale. So can you talk just a little bit about that process, how classrooms get involved, and what the process for a student is? And then, Sally, I'd love to ask you more about how that experience was for you.
Yeah, I mean, maybe what I'll do, if it's okay with you, is I'll share my screen, because showing is generally better than telling. So let me quickly do that. Can you see my screen okay? So this is actually behind the scenes inside the program, the current program right now. And what you're seeing is a dashboard that has the week by week of the program. So the way the program works, the cadence of the program is that on a Monday, we have a live stream session with, in this case, a Pixar story artist. And Monday, the content for that week opens up so that you can see exercises, videos, inspiration, all kinds of materials. And the deliverable for that week is made clear. So in week one, it's all about what if. And that's coming up with your initial ideas. What if what if, what if, what if. It'll be fun to have Nova and Kieren tell you a little bit about what their what if process was. And so at the end of each week, you upload, every participant, whether they're participating as a team or an individual, uploads their deliverable for that week. It goes into a gallery. And in that gallery, actually, I think I have the gallery open as well. Let me see. Yep, there we go. So can you see it now?
Yeah.
So this is the week 3 gallery. And the way it works is you upload your content. And as soon as you upload your content, you're asked to give feedback on 4 different submissions. So you give that feedback on 4 submissions, and we always help seed the feedback with a few questions. You know, what's something you really liked? What's something that was confusing? What suggestions might you have to keep for this person to keep working? Once you've done your 4 submissions feedback, then the whole gallery opens for you. And so you can see just a wide array of submissions. I think, well, this is the final gallery, what I'm showing you here. So at the very end of the program, everybody's work goes into a gallery that becomes public. So up until this point, it's kind of just behind the walls of the program, participants and the community that gets created, giving feedback on each other's work. But at the end, it goes into a public gallery where you can see everybody's magical story reel that is at the end of the program. So the way that educators, the way schools can get involved is they register. You know, the program, you can register for the program, multiple teams or individual students. And we've seen really, really great experiences with whole classrooms doing it. We've also seen it as after school. We've seen it integrated into nonprofit organizations, homeschooling, individuals. And we now have both a youth cohort, ages 13 to 18, and an adult cohort.
That's excellent. So, no, I mean, just to see the range of creativity there in the final gallery is just awe-inspiring to see that you've been able to put the kind of framework together where these teams can continually develop these ideas and to get such tremendous results. So, no, thank you so much. So, Sally, I would love to hear about the experience from the perspective of the educator. And first, just tell us a little bit about how long you've been teaching, and then, you know, you've been a teacher in the COVID era. So what was that like for you? And then how was the process of figuring out how all this would work for your class once you joined the program?
Well, I've been wearing a lot of different career hats along the way, but it just so happens that I got the internship position in January of 2020. And I had lined up all kinds of summer opportunities for students to go and work at a law firm and, you know, work with marine biologists out in the field. And then one by one, things started to close down because of COVID. And, you know, 2 months into my job, our campus went online only. We had so many historic events that were planned for 100th year, you know, anniversary of our world famous song contest that got canceled. It was a really heartbreaking time when so many things that we were looking forward to doing in person were starting to get canceled, and so we really ended the school year on a sad note. And when we restarted fall, we were in kind of uncharted territory of starting, you know, online only school with a completely different bell schedule. Our school is one that was founded by our Hawaiian royalty, by our Hawaiian princess, Bernice Pauahi Bishop, in order to serve Hawaiian students, not just in education, but in terms of their overall well-being and to become leaders for our community. And it was a huge adjustment for us to have students who were boarding on our campus, like from different islands, living on our campus, to being at home and all having to log in with their school laptops, but with different levels of connectivity with, reliable or unreliable or non-existent internet. So it was a really difficult beginning for our fall semester. And then out of the blue, we got this announcement that there was this new program called Xperiential to help young people learn how to create stories the Pixar way. And of course, all of our students, they all grew up with Pixar. They all have a favorite movie, and fond memories of, watching Pixar films as little kids. So they sent over a 2-minute, infomercial about what Xperiential would be. And we just aired it on our, morning news program broadcast. And very quickly, we had lots of students saying, we'd like to sign up for this. And so it was an exciting time. We are fortunate that our school provides laptops for each individual student, and pretty good quality laptops, and we have IT support, but we also have a lot of IT security filters, so that there were some glitches with just the sign up process, because there were things that are easy for adults on our personal laptops to access that school safety restrictions made a little bit more complicated. So there were some IT bugs to work out, but miraculously, we were able to get through all of that to get about 50 students signed up. Within a few days. I mean, it wasn't even a week window.
That's awesome. Oh, that's awesome.
Students.
Yeah.
And I think part of it, was that the idea of telling stories that's very deeply rooted in the Hawaiian culture. The Hawaiian language is one with a very poetic oral tradition. The Hawaiian language is very layered with a lot of metaphorical meanings to each word. There are beautiful legends, creation mythologies, and epic stories, within our culture. So students, are brought up with that they're inspired by that, and within that process also incorporating visual arts, performing arts, and so I think we have a lot of talent, but on an international level, the authentic individual voices of Hawaiian students aren't always heard. So we were really touched and appreciated that that Elyse wanted to make sure that Native Hawaiian young voices were included in this first cohort, and we felt that. So mahalo.
That's wonderful. Now, what were your hopes for the program? Like, what would you originally conceive that you'd want some of the outcomes to be, and what did you see the outcomes as? I mean, what did you feel you were able to accomplish with the program?
Well, I think we were just excited. I was excited to see the students' excitement about getting to work with professional animators, to kind of get to peek behind the scenes in terms of what happens with teams of professional animators, how they create their stories, how they work together. And I think it was very evident that the presenters that led the workshops, they're not teachers, but the way they explain things, the way they demonstrate both the mechanics and just the personal voice coming out, in stories that are meant to be shared with a worldwide audience, like that the personal as well as the professional elements. I think those are really inspiring to our students, and the content was wonderful. Technically, it was a little bit tricky with the time difference. The live sessions were right at the time that school was ending here in Hawaii. And there were some challenges, but to our students' credit, they were so excited and motivated by the content that they got themselves online and keeping up with the the assignments each week completely independently. For us, because we were just scrambling to keep our core courses up and running, and because of the timing, the students were on their own. I was there for a couple of the early sessions to just make sure, they could log on. But as far as, making sense of the assignments and turning in their work, all of the students worked very independently.
That's
I'd
wonderful.
love to just
So,
jump
yeah, please,
in.
Elyse, go ahead.
What was so amazing was they were part of the pilot session. So fall 2021 was the first time we've ever done that. The whole program had about 350 students participating. And for us to be able to get feedback from the students and the educators who were participating in the program was incredible. And so we have, we continue to change and grow and fix things along the way, but you all were so responsive and so communicative with us about what was working and what wasn't, and how we could really make it work for you. That was just fantastic for us.
Oh, that's wonderful. So as we've been talking about the students, and the students are obviously the focus of this. So I want for the students in. So Kieren, let's start off with you. So what was the experience like for you? And just tell us, as the team came together and you started working on the content, how that went.
So I'll just start from like the beginning. We heard about it, and then I had a bunch of classes with our friend Miley, who is the third person in our group. And then we were like talking about it, and then we were like, do we want to do it? Because like it was around Christmas, and then like during Christmas, our school does like a bunch of stuff. We have a whole like Christmas concert, like it's like a whole big thing. And like, it's the end of the year also. So we were like, do you want to do it? And then it was like, we decided yes. And then we both thought of Nova. And then, so then we were like, let's add him to the group too. And then, so we got all together. And then when it started, then it was a little bit of a rough start, I will say, because we had to like adjust to it. And, we had all of our other school stuff. And then like, I was traveling in like the beginning. So then I had to like work with that too. I was like sitting in the bathroom on my iPad, like FaceTiming them while we were like doing the what ifs, and also like looking at all of the other people's projects. But then after that, it was just like doing it like together, and like especially Nova would remind us to like do this and that, and then like, and we would like do all of our separate parts and put them together. And then that's basically how it went for like the duration of the whole thing.
So Nova, it sounds like you were helping to kind of make sure things were nudged along. So what were the steps in the program? What were what did you have to keep on moving towards? Because I mean, you guys are coming together. You've got to come up with ideas. So what was that like? What were sort of the steps that you had to go through?
Yeah, so of course, every week there is a deliverable where whatever topic or subject there was for the week, we apply that and demonstrate it through our weekly deliverable, which tended to be a video assignment. And so, the first week wasn't bad. It was just coming up with what if ideas, which is just a concept, literally a what if. It's something that you see nowadays in like Marvel's what if. But our what if idea, we had a couple because we just joined a group call and started coming up with just random things. We all came up with like 3, and we were, as a group, supposed to submit 3. So each of us came up with 3, and then we took 1 from each person. And so there were some interesting ideas. Like, I think there were some ideas like, what if wars were fought with instruments? Things like that, with like music and stuff like that, trying to find stuff that would be visually interesting and also entertaining. But we ended up settling with what if yearbooks came to life. And so that was our week 1. Real smooth sailing. It was great so far. Then week 2 happened, and week 2 was like immediately into break. And Miley and Kieren both went on very poorly timed family trips. And so for like the first half of that week, we were doing nothing at all. And then maybe like Thursday or something, we finally got together for a video call. And yeah, we were just trying to discuss what to do, because this week was our character assignment, coming up with the characters that would inhabit the story. And so we were trying to think of what to do for that what if assignment. And the tough thing too is, the what if assignment, it's very loose. It's just a concept. It can be anything at all. But once you get into week 2, you already have to start solidifying some ideas. And like, if you create a character early on that doesn't really work with the end story, that's going to be a problem. So you got to do some forward thinking, but like not too much forward thinking that it defeats the purpose of the whole process. But anyways, we ended up with Iris, just some office lady. And now here's where it's a bit of my bad, because, as you know, we were falling behind quite a bit. The deliverable is due on Friday. I decided with what little time we have left, I want to have fun presenting our character. It's kind of boring just to be like, hey, here's our character. They go to the office. It's kind of just bland, sort of cut and dry. And so I was like, you know what? Let's make like a fake dating sim trailer to introduce my character. And I didn't know how to do that. So I figured that the best way to do that would be to actually program a dating simulator. So I learned how to do that. And then
As one does.
the trailer.
Of course you
as
did.
one does.
Yeah, of course you did. So help me understand from that point forward, then what were the general steps to get you to the finish line? And then Kieren, from both of you, I want to hear, what was it like to have the finished product?
Yeah, so from there, every week was basically similar story to week 2, where we would just get further and further behind. And I think that, by week 8, like the final week, we just finished week 4. We just finished the story spine, and had not completed any of the act 1, 2, or 3 videos. And of course, the final is due on that day. So pretty much every week would be, we're behind by a lot. We do not meet when we plan to meet. And so on the day that the deliverable would have been due, or maybe like we haven't even finished last week's deliverable, but whenever that is, then we finally meet. And then I'm like, hey, we need to get these drawings and stuff. And we would call to solidify ideas, because my way of thinking is kind of just like all over the place. And then Miley helps to like grab that down and bam. And then Kieren just helps to get the drawings done. And that was a big help, because that is too much work. And so it was pretty much that, just falling behind. Finally, week 8 arrived, super far behind. The good thing, act 1, 2, and 3 is just the final thing cut up into 3 pieces. So in like the last 2 days, I worked to put together all of the drawings and music and etc. And then like right when it was due, I just cut it into 3 pieces so I could submit 1, 2, and 3 and the final in one day. And there we go.
Right. Done. All right, Kieren, what was that like, having the final product?
I remember Nova texted us because he was really in control of like the end process, and he was like, "It's done. Here it is." And then I remember I was like, "Oh, thank God." because it had been a very long journey of us like fighting to try and get it done and like finish it on time. And it just felt really good. It was like, you know, all of the work that we had all put in. And I would say that like Nova put in a lot of work. So I'm sure it felt great for him. And
I
I
lost
was
a few years.
I was a little like off doing a couple other things, but it felt really good to like get the text. And then I watched it and then it was like, wow. And then my family saw it and then I didn't watch it with them. That's embarrassing. But they they told me that they really liked it too. And then like my other family members watched it. Some friends watched it and they all said it was really good. So it felt good to just like have it be done and get like good feedback and have it be like proud of it.
What's really cool listening
go
to you
ahead.
guys, what's really amazing listening is as you're describing the complexity of the process, you're pretty much describing what it's like to make a movie at Pixar. We're always behind, always trying to figure out how the collaboration works, who's doing what. And when you get to that finish line, that feeling of, oh, we did it. So you had a very authentic experience.
So for each of you guys, then I want to pull Elyse and Sally back into the conversation. But for each of you guys, like, what do you? We'll start with Nova. What was your biggest learning? Like, what did you feel you got the most out of the program?
I think the biggest thing that I got was that like I actually can produce like a product, because before then I'd always drawn as a hobby, and music and all those kinds of stuff just for fun, but I'd never really produced like a sizable thing and been like, I did this. And so, you know, that was a really cool thing. The other thing is, in school, I'll be honest, I have never been a fan of group projects. But it turns out that when you're in a group with people that you enjoy and you're actually all doing your work, it's pretty great. And so that was fun to discover as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Kieren, how about you?
I would say pretty much the same thing. You know, animation is it's a little like scary. And before I tried it a bunch of times and I was never able to do it because, you know, it's one of those things where you like do it for like an hour and then you're like, oh my gosh, it's taking so long. So I might just stop. But then this, even though like Nova did a lot of the technical stuff, then like it made me feel like it actually was possible. And so that's why I was gonna do architecture, but then I changed my major to creative media, art and animation, because it kind of just made me feel like it was possible for me to do it. And also the group thing. It's very nice working with a group of people who you love and care about, who also are like, you're all like-minded and you all do your work.
So I was going to actually ask both of you if this had any influence in your thinking about your future work, and you just answered it, Kieren. I think that's marvelous, is that you see that's a thing that you didn't necessarily believe was a possible path for you, and now you think that it's more possible. How about you, Noah? Did you get any insights about some of the things that you might be interested in work in the future?
Yeah, I like, even though I'd only produce, you know, those hobby like small creations, I'd always wanted to go into animation and storytelling and sort of just like general creative stuff. And so I'd say it's not so much that my goals have shifted as much as they've like solidified. It's more like, all right, cool, it is a possibility, I can do it. And so just more confidence in that goal. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. So I do want to bring Elyse and Sally into the discussion. And so I just generally want to start to ask a couple, you know, sort of open-ended questions before we wrap up. But each of you at various points has talked about the storytelling So obviously, so it's a big underpinning of this, and as Elyse said, this is what we do as humans, is just the drive to storytelling. And so how would you want others listening to this to be thinking about the opportunities for storytelling? And especially as we're thinking about ways that other students would be able to participate. Anybody want to take that one? Elyse, you want to
I'm gonna
start?
jump in. Yeah, I'll jump in quickly. I mean, for me, I think the thing that's most critical about storytelling today is we've become such a big and fractured world. And when we share our stories, we share our humanity, and we develop empathy and kindness. And I just think we need as much of that as possible. A separate thing and a more pragmatic thing is storytelling is also critical in pretty much every career, whether you're pitching an idea, whether you're telling the story of the business you're creating as an entrepreneur. Storytelling is a really critical skill that we need, as is collaboration, as they talked about, and storytelling is richer when it is collaborative.
Yeah. Sally, especially what resonated for me as you were talking is that so much of the impetus, it sounded like for you, is just the richness of the cultural context for a lot of this as well. And I'm going to imagine that that's true for people around the world.
Yeah, and besides, well, there was no requirement, for the students to limit themselves to Hawaiian themes or to represent a particular type of character or anything like that. But what was striking to me was that our students that Nova, Kieren, and Miley were able to really draw out their passions, their abilities, not just in animation and drawing, but their abilities in music composition and in video editing, and also a real deep emotional intelligence, that they were able to express something that was really emotional. Emotionally rich at a time when everybody was feeling, extra emotional because of the challenges of COVID. And it was very moving and surprising. And the students, the dream team was able to create this, that they voluntarily did this without any teachers, chasing after them to say you're not going to get your grade or your credit, but somehow they were able to express something that I think we didn't really have space for while trying to cover the requirements in our class curriculum with all of the exams and and the hoops that they have to jump through to get through high school. I was just very moved that they were motivated, that they stuck with it, and didn't just turn in an assignment, but you could see the depth and the heart and just things that were already in them that were given the opportunity to be expressed, and that the audience of not just the professionals but their peers online, 300 other aspiring animators that love stories, being able to respond so warmly and authentically, it's really exciting for me to be able to witness.
Well, it sounds, it's a tremendous opportunity. What you've done, Elyse, in tapping into that motivation, it sounds like the program is just designed to be able to help channel those energies, and then the opportunity that you provided to your class, Sally, it sounds like it was just a great intersection of all those things. So just before we wrap up, I just want to ask Kieren and Nova. So what advice would you give to other young people, other students who are, you guys were each thinking about something related to creativity, or whether it's linked to your career or not in the future? When you get other people, if you were giving advice to other young people who were thinking about doing this type of thing, what would you tell them to do?
I'd say first and foremost, not to stress about it, because creativity in particular is something that really doesn't work under stress, because I don't know, creativity is it speaks so much to the human experience, and it's not something that you can channel when you are, under fire and you feel so in danger and stressed about it. It's just good to, because creativity really should be a fun and liberating experience. And if you're turning it into a source of stress, then there really isn't much purpose in that anymore. And that stress is going to show in your work, because eventually your creativity is going to run dry, and the only thing that you're pulling from is that stress. So it's like, oh, cool, look at this product, 10% creativity, 90% stress. It's not gonna show so great. And so just knowing that it's really important to create for the sake of creating and not for the sake of proving worth or getting something done, in terms of just accomplishments or labor. It really is just something that you do because you want to do it, very earnestly. The other thing is you don't need to be like uber super talented. I know that there are a lot of artists that make drawing look super duper easy, or they write a masterpiece in like 10 seconds. And that can be really intimidating. And of course it is in all sorts of fields that's super intimidating. But I think in art and music and all of these creative fields in particular, it's really scary because, with any other field, it's like, oh, like that person is a really good mathematician. They think so different, like they discover all this stuff. Like there's a limit to how different that can be from the standard. Whereas like creativity, it's the difference of, oh, this person can like draw like a human completely like photo perfect in a second, versus like, I don't know, I can draw a circle in that same amount of time. Like the world of differences seems so much larger in creative fields because there is so much room for diversity. And so just knowing that it's not so much about latent ability and the things, the quality appearance wise of what you can produce, but it really is about the emotion that you can channel into it. And so long as you can feel that within the work, even if it's just like stick figures, or sometimes I can't even draw stick figures. Sometimes like I don't know what I just drew, it's some potato shape. But if you can do some amount of work to try to capture what you're thinking, I think that's a really beautiful thing, because words just can't always do it justice when you're trying to capture an idea or a thought. Sometimes
Well, as you guys, I'm sorry, I didn't know, but as you guys found in your team, I mean, everybody's got different strengths. You each bring something. I mean, that's the idea of a team, right? So you each bring different strengths. So yeah, I think that's marvelous. So Kieren, how about you? Piece of advice for other young people.
The team definitely is a big thing. I know I talked about it earlier, but like, it's not a bad thing to work with other people, and you just need to really find people who you can work with, and it'll be like a way more enjoyable experience. You don't have to, I used to think that art was a really solo thing because I was like the only person who drew in like elementary with Mila. It was like me and her and like at our school. And then like there was like barely any art people. So then it always felt like such a solo activity. But like finding a good group of people, it makes it a lot easier because like, you can spread out the work and everything. And then also, what was it?
We talked about the team, right?
Wait.
That's okay. But we'll come back if you think of it. Just put your hand up. So just briefly, Sally, is there any advice you'd give to other educators about this type of program and the opportunity to be able to give students access to these type of creative processes?
I'm not sure it's advice. I mean, our school is huge, and it's been a transitional time of being completely online to students wanting to catch up for lost time to sign up for athletics and clubs and all these in-person activities that school has resumed. So, with the later cohorts, the timing, story experiential kind of got lost in the shuffle of all these new opportunities that are opening up again. But one thing that we've been talking about also with the second cohort, including middle schoolers, is to kind of, adjust the program with specific audiences and maybe with specific classes and teachers, where for the middle schoolers, they found that, working as a cohort with a dedicated teacher and maybe taking smaller chunks of the what if and kind of a taste test of the beginning of a story building experience might give students a little bit more confidence, especially when they're younger, to want to try the full story experiential program, which is over, is it 9 weeks? A period of weeks. And because of our crowded school schedule, it might be more practical to hook students into the idea of storytelling with a shorter, month-long kind of taster or kind of a teaser into the program.
Yeah,
and
to onboard them.
Build out the confidence, because our seniors are a little bit more seasoned. And we're ready to go as a team and work on their own independently. But I think we'd like to, try to reach more students, even if they don't come up with a full-fledged, yearbook memories level, short film story reel at the end. I think there's some wonderful elements that that could inspire younger students and maybe connect with some of what our teachers are already trying to teach.
That's great.
Classes.
That's great. Now, Kieren, did you think of your second point yet? Okay, no problem. So Elyse, why don't you wrap us up here? What are your final thoughts?
I first of all, I just love hearing from Nova and Kieren and Sally. Thank you for everything that you shared about it. I think my main final thought is our goal, what we imagine is having 10, 15 different experientials in all different sectors. We started with storytelling, but I imagine entrepreneurship experiential and game development experiential and AI and robotics and that final feeling that they expressed having of, I can do this, this is possible, this is something I could be a part of. And that feeling of collaborating and going through an authentic experience, that you try those in all different sectors and open up all the potential for your futures and for your lives and for students, young students, but also for adults as they are coming into their adult life and still trying to figure out. Most of us don't figure out what we want to be when we grow up for a pretty long time. So it's opening up possibility and creating creative communities that support that hope and passion and future.
Well, that resonates with me because I'm still working on the growing up part. So listen, thanks to all of you for all your perspective and input. For those of you listening, we're going to have links to all the different program elements we were talking about, so you can actually check out the videos and especially the yearbook. If you want to see more videos in this series, please go to gsd22.com. Thanks so much.
Can I throw in one more question for Nova and Kieren? Because they shared with me earlier something that I found really interesting. Nova and Kieren, I wondered early on if it would have been easier for more of our students to excel in story experiential if there was a Kuma teacher guiding the class with weekly assignments. And then you had some interesting things to share about how you think it would have felt different working, with as a class for Story Experiential to be assigned to you each week versus the way you guys did it, working on your own.
Right. I think, and you sort of brought it up earlier loosely, but that idea of with a teacher, it does feel like an assignment. It feels like something that you have to do. It's if you don't do this, you get a grade. If you get no grade, if you don't do this, you get a punishment. So it automatically, when you turn it into a classroom environment, no matter how wonderful it is, there is going to be like a layer of stress there. The other thing is, advantages of classroom environments. You do have that teacher there. So if you need help, you can go and ask them right away. Or if you are running behind or you need ideas, they'll be there to help and remind you. But the downside of that is students become almost reliant on them. And it becomes, at the end, when you get that final product, it becomes less of a, oh, I created this is super cool, and more of a, oh, cool, I made this in my class. My teacher helped me. Honestly, my teacher did most of the work. So it becomes an experience where you can really feel like for the first time you managed to accomplish something by yourself. And there are going to be hiccups. There are going to be like, as we fell behind by a bunch of weeks, but we managed to catch up. And that is a big learning experience that, there are deadlines. Just learning to manage these things independently will really help in the future when there are actual deadlines to manage and you don't have that teacher there right by your side being like, hey, reminder about this deadline, or hey, you're doing good, but you might need to hurry up a bit in order to meet that. By being self-managed, you learn so much more.
I think that's it's a really interesting thing, because what we tried to do was create this program to be super flexible so that it could work in classrooms, it could work after school, it could work with individuals. And I think you get different things in each one of those scenarios. We have a lot of educators who've run it in their classroom, and it becomes a very in-person thing as opposed to just an online program. It is designed to be both an in-person and online or hybrid, whatever we need. So I think all of the above is what our goals are.
Now, Kieren, what do you think about that? I mean, do you think having some type of instructor involved would have helped the process more, or be useful in the future?
I think that there's like good and bad, obviously, as Nova said, it's like somebody to fall back on. But I also think Nova made a very good point in the fact that it feels like it's not truly just you doing it. Like for example, the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards in 9th grade, then I got an award for a piece, but I did it in art class, so I didn't feel that it was super like that I like deserved it or anything, because it was just a drawing that I did in my class. But then the next year I entered like a couple of pieces and I got like a ton of awards, and I felt super good about it, and I felt good about going to see it too, because I had made the active choice to do it myself, and I finished it all by myself. So like, that's why it's like, there's like a good and bad, but like personally, independent working was better for me and our group.
No, that's great. So, but it sounds like you guys sort of, you found the way to be able to work together with your different work styles as a team. So listen, thank you guys so much. This has been wonderful for me. It's just tremendously inspirational to see this program and its opportunity and the impact that it has. So, and I hope that our listeners will do more to check it out and to see if it's something that they find interesting themselves. So thank you all, and looking forward to seeing more creative output in the future.
Thank you.